Welcome to the Book Party Podcast.
Join us as we journey into the world of books with Michael T.
Prepare to be captivated by engaging interviews, insightful discussions, and fascinating stories. You'll discover new adventures and gain insight into the creative process of the authors themselves as they share their struggles and accomplishments. Now let's hear from Michael T.
This is Michael T. Welcome to the Book Party Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, bookworms and adventurers, welcome to a literary voyage that will transport you to realms beyond imagination. Today, we are privileged to introduce a creative visionary whose talents have enthralled audiences on and off the stage. Join us as we delve into the enchanting world of award-winning playwright and author Mikaela Duffy and her highly anticipated novel, The Mistport Guardians, The Stolen Child. Hailing from the vibrant borough of Brooklyn, where inspiration abounds, Mikaela Duffy is not just an author. She's a storytelling maestro with a cadre of feline companions as her muse. She has captured hearts and accolades alike. Her theatrical prowess has earned her strategic award, such as Best in Fest and Best in Space for spellbinding off-Broadway solo show Star Sweeper, A Human Odyssey. Furthermore, her poignant piece For Love, Sir, Letters of Life, Love, and Sacrifice claimed the coveted Patrons Pick. But that's just the beginning of her remarkable journey. While her literary accolades shine brightly, Mikaela is more than a wordsmith. She's an avid storyteller who exercises her narrative muscles through weekly tabloid role-playing games. This eclectic mix of experiences have infused her work with a unique depth and creativity. With a background in criminal profiling and legal studies from the University of Central Florida, Mikaela brings a profound understanding of human nature to her writing, but her unwavering passion for humanity, fueled by an insatiable obsession with our collective potential, truly sets her apart. She believes in the transformative power of stories and champions the idea that we make the world better by embracing the heroes we adore in our tales. Now let's turn our attention to the piece de résistance, the Mistport Guardians, The Stolen Child. This upcoming novel promises to be an epic journey of magic, mystery, and unbreakable bonds of friendship. As we embark on this literary adventure, prepare to be captivated by Mikaela's unparalleled storytelling prowess. The Mistport Guardians will transport you to a world where the line between reality and fantasy blurs, hidden secrets and ancient prophecies await, and where the fate of a stolen child rests in the hands of unlikely heroes. So, dear listeners, get ready to embark on a quest of literary discovery with Mikaela Duffy and the Mistport Guardians, The Stolen Child. This podcast promises to be a portal, imagination of celebration and storytelling, and an exploration of an extraordinary mind behind the words. Welcome to the Mikaela Duffy Chronicles, where stories come to life and heroes within us all shine brightly. Mikaela, why don't you take it from here, fill in the blanks a bit, and tell our listeners about yourself.
Thank you so much for that introduction. That is amazing. I hope to live up to it. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Michael. I really, really appreciate it. But no, it's been quite an adventure going from stage to novel writing. As you have, worked with several different mediums of storytelling yourself, I'm sure you can appreciate how you navigate from one to another.
Oh, yeah. Navigating from one to another can be a mix that you have to separate and go through. So on your publishing journey, since this isn't your first one, did you ever go through the self-publishing route, or always the route of finding an agent and the agency route, or a mix in between, or how did you do this?
So I am currently on that journey right now. I've got all of my information for self-publishing on my documents, and I am currently being looked at by a few agents here in New York City who I queried, and they were all really receptive to everything that I sent them. And so right now I'm kind of in this like itty bitty tiny little bidding war. I'm hoping. So the goal is to see if traditional publishing is the route in which I would like to continue moving forward, and if I don't find the joy and the freedom that I want to tell the story with, then I'm going to migrate back to self-publishing. But I want to make sure I try all the options first, everything at my disposal, everything that I can, get some kind of experience with, just to make sure that I have checked every box. And when this is out in the world, it is exactly what I want it to be.
Yeah, I think it's really good to have your options open and at least that mindset. I've had authors that swear by the agency route, and I've had authors that swear by the self-publishing route, and then I've had authors that swear by the hybrid route.
Yeah, there's so many options.
There's so many options out there. What I've done is the self-publishing route for my first 3 books, and on my number 4 that's underway right now will be the self-publishing route. So what I did is I built a team, and I built the whole team off of Fiverr. So I've got my editing, and I got my, book cover and different parts of it all built as a team. And so when I get to that part, it moves very, very fast. The first book moved very slowly because I had to find people in the right spots that I needed, so it moved slow. The second book moved faster. The third book it was quick. So I already have the team put together to do it, and it's really fast. I just upload KDP, and it goes really quick. And then you have to do the marketing of your book, but Amazon makes that very easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you upload KDP. When you go with an agency, what I've heard is it can be very, very slow to get your book out there. And some of the agencies kind of take away your storytelling ability, and they want to use their words instead of your words and change everything when it comes to the editing process. Now, not all of them, but some of them do, and that slows things down, and then people get angry. But you gotta kind of go with what you want to do and see how far that takes you. And it costs money. You got to pay the agent, then you got to pay them, then you got to, it ends up costing money to do. So you got to see, which way is the right way to go, because when you go KDP, it's still going to cost you money because of the marketing issue. Uploading into KDP is free, but you got to do the marketing side of it, which doesn't cost a lot. It's not like paying an agency to do your book, but it does cost. You got to do the marketing side. So it's up to you. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. It's really just, for me, I wanted to have the opportunity just to see what it was like and whether or not it's something I was interested in, because I am so passionate and also very protective and possessive over my storytelling. And so moving forward, if I don't retain that kind of control over what I want to say and what I want to present to the world, I'm just going to move back to self-publishing, where I am in fact control of what I want to say, because a lot of publishers are interested in following trends, right? They want things that will sell. For me, my story is not related to trends at all. It is very much a story from my heart that I feel like needs to be presented to the world, and also will benefit the world and people who listen to it, regardless of whether or not it sells 1 million copies. My goal is that whoever does read this story gets something out of it, and they get that escapism from the current day, because gestures at everything outside, it's a little rough. And when you have a story that's about people who are very much like us, for at least for me and my demographic, all of my main characters are in their late 20s, early 30s, just trying to make it through the day. They're all these normal people who are put under extraordinary circumstances and act extraordinarily. And when we surround ourselves with stories like that, we can start to embody some of those same characteristics, some of those same feelings, and not only romanticize our own lives, but remind ourselves that, what is that I think it's a Maya Angelou quote, the only thing that has ever changed the world is one person thinking they could. I know I just totally turned all those words around, but the purpose of my storytelling is very much to remind people that, yes, we are one individual, but that is a great and powerful thing. Just to be
you're writing a story from you to your avatar, not from somebody else to please their avatar. So when they change the story to say, well, it's more marketable this way, you're saying, but it's my avatar and it's my story, so I don't want to change that. And that's where the conflict starts to come in, I think. But anyway, let's move along here. In your writing, take us to a point, what you would consider your worst author moment, and tell us that story, and we'll talk about maybe a lesson learned in that.
Ooh, my worst author moment, coming for the jugular, Michael. Let me think on that. I think all authors and all creative types have moments where they just feel absolutely burnt out and have no motivation to create, or they have this just overwhelming sense of imposter syndrome that, who am I to tell this story? Who am I to have anything worth saying? Like, it's all been told before. It's all been said before. And for me, that's taken place several times in my life where I just stare at the computer and it's like, what's the point? Why is anything I say worth saying? And one of the things you mentioned earlier was, how important it is to have a team. And for me, that has been my saving grace in all of my creative opportunities and prospects, is I have my chosen family who I have developed over the course of this particular story, that has just absolutely had my back in every way and supported me in all those ways. But even beyond them, just a community of people who, when you reach out to them, because that's one of the things that humans do best is, the first thing that we do when we are born is cry, because what we need is to be supported and to be helped. That is how we survive. And as creatives, that is also what we need. We need support. We need a community. We need an audience. We need people who are passionate about our storytelling to remind us that what we say does have worth and does matter. And that, yes, so many stories have been told before. Yes, your story may not be singular in its conceit, but it's never been told through your voice. It's never been told with your lens on the world and your perspective. And just reminding myself of that has gotten me out of the doldrums of like the imposter syndrome and the just, trying to create magic in a world in which magic is just completely away from reality.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, let's move to another side of the coin here. It's what I call the epiphany moment. It's a moment in time where when you're not writing necessarily, I guess you could be, but when you're not writing, you're driving, you're cooking, you're in a cab, you're whatever it is, and all of a sudden this bright light bulb goes off, or this aha moment, this something happens in your head where you think of something, oh man, I got to get a pen, I got to get a paper, I got to write this down right now before this fades. A moment like that. Have you had a moment like that when you were writing this book?
Oh, so many. so many moments like that. I've had throughout all of my storytelling processes. But I think the first was I didn't start this book anticipating to write a book. What I wanted was to have like a writing exercise on writing action, right? So a lot of, in this story, it's fantasy, right? There's a lot of sword fights and magic fights. And I wasn't sure if I knew how to write a fight, like an actual action sequence. And so that was just the experiment, was to see if I could. And then I was sitting in this cafe. It's one of my favorite cafes in New York City. And I just realized I couldn't stop. I was at the end of my experiment, whether or not I could or could not write action. And yet I just couldn't stop typing. And, the cafe's starting to close, lights are going down, and I go home and I just sit at my computer and write all night long at home too. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh, there's something real here. There's something that I have to get out of me. It is compelling me to create, because there's something just so real, just flowing out of me. And I've had that kind of experience several times. Several times with this book, where it feels like I'm trying to pour out a waterfall with a little paper cup, and it just kind of keeps, word vomiting out of me. And then with Star Sweeper, my off-Broadway show, I had just gone through a terrible heartbreak, and I had been feeling so lonely and so down. And the amount of love that was just poured upon me by my friends and family and my community just filled me with so much love and so much just like appreciation for humanity that it moved me to action. And I was like, what if I wrote this story of someone who is just so propelled by their own love for people that they would go on this insane journey across the stars just to save somebody who is worth saving. And so, yes, that epiphany moment of like, aha, I must create. It's such a great feeling too. You know what I'm talking about. It's just that,
Right. Well, that's fantastic, though. So let's talk about today. What is the one thing that you're most fired up about or most excited about right now today?
Right now today, the thing that excites me is the prospect of my book being out in the world, but mostly because I have 3 dreams that I think are totally attainable, and I get so excited about them every day. So the first dream is I get a box, and I take the box to the airport, and then I get in the flight to Florida, which is where my chosen family is, and I take the box to my family's house, my chosen family, and then we open the box together. And is our book. Because this book is not just about me, it's about, my chosen family through whom I've gone through this storytelling process with. And we hold my physical book of all of our stories together. And the idea of that moment, that fantastical moment, just spurs me through the world. That, and then I have this dream of going to the Strand, which is a bookstore here in New York, and seeing that they have a little sign and it says sci-fi fantasy, and seeing my book underneath that sign. I get so excited about that. And then my third attainable dream is sitting on the subway, and it's hot and it's gross and everything's terrible and it's loud, and I look across the aisle and someone is reading my book, and I have to make that decision of do I talk to a total stranger to be like, hey, thanks for reading my book, or do I sit on the subway and ignore everybody like we always do? Those 3 ideals make me, they just fill me with so much joy and so much anticipation and so much excitement, because to share this with the world is just a dream. And it's so cool. Being on this podcast, it's a dream. I'm talking about my favorite book, and it's so great. I get so overwhelmed with how wonderful this experience has been thus far, and I get excited about how much more beautiful it's going to become as we continue moving forward with the process, because everyone who's been involved with it thus far and been involved with my creative journey thus far has been so passionate about, supporting me. And it's just overwhelming and so exciting and so cool. And I'm so grateful.
Well, that one where you're sitting on the subway and somebody's reading your book, that's that moment you keep to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You smile and you just keep that moment to yourself, that excitement, and you just keep it. That's yours. But when you get that physical copy in your hand, that is a moment of excitement that you'll never have again, because that is your physical copy of your first book, and you're published and it's yours.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll never have that moment again, because that's your first one. That's your author's copy, and it is yours. You are published, and not a lot of people can say they're published. And you can say that, and here is my book. Mm-hmm. And when you go to your first signing and you sign your first book to somebody, that's another moment of excitement. You're signing your first book. And that's pretty amazing. And those are a couple of moments that you'll never have again. Anyway, this is Michael T. We invite you to go to the bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, then scroll down to the icon of your choice, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey, where you can download and follow us there, and please leave a review. And please don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter to get the latest information on our upcoming shows. Now, Mikaela, we're entering the lightning round, and in the lightning round, there is 4 pointed questions for 4 pointed answers. Now, when you first became an author, first started writing, what was the one thing that held you back from becoming an author in the first place?
Not thinking my words were worth saying. Not thinking that I had, because I don't have a degree in English. I don't have a degree in storytelling. I don't have, all of these little qualifications that the world requires you to have in order to be worth, pontificating to the world for. And that was, I think, the only real thing that was keeping me from being an author, is I just didn't know that it was a thing I could do. And that I had the ability to do so and move forward with, regardless of whether or not I had the paperwork to back me up.
Well, it's the number one answer that we get. I don't know about the paperwork and the degrees and everything, but the part about, being worth people to listen, because what happens is they see all these giant authors with all these novels under their names, and how can I compete with that? And you're not competing with that. They have their stories for their audiences and their avatars. You have your story for your avatar coming from you. They're not your competition. You are your only competition, period. And that's it.
You could not say that better.
Once you realize that, you're your only competition, just write. So once you started writing, what was the best advice you had ever received?
So, my favorite advice, and it is the advice that I give to every person who asks me how I wrote 240,000 words in 5 months, is you can edit bad, but you can't edit nothing. If you just write something, even if it's bad, even if you know it's terrible, you can edit that, but you cannot edit nothing. So even when you're feeling at your worst and you're like, the words are not working, I have just described the floor by saying it is a very floor. In 2 days when you go back and reread it, you can make it better, but you can't make nothing better. So my best advice is, you can edit bad stuff, you can't edit nothing.
That's correct. And one of the guests that I had, and I can't remember who he was, and he heard it from somebody else, and I heard it from him, so this isn't me saying this from me. But what he said was, write drunk, edit sober.
Ernest Hemingway.
Just get on there and write. You can always edit it later. Just write. Just
Mhm.
write whatever you write. Don't worry about sentence structure. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just get it down and then go back and edit sober. And I always thought that was the best way to say that is just write. Write drunk, edit sober. Okay.
Mhm.
Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Ooh, okay. So I have ADHD. So writing is actually really hard for me. So I have had to create a lot of habits specifically to ensure that I can actually write. And one of them is, like, if I had to go down the list, is finding a place that you enjoy writing, not your house. Somewhere that you enjoy writing, where that is when you walk in the door, you are in the mindset of, I must write. This is the writing day. I sit in the same cafe, in the same seat, order the same thing so that I am not making any choices. All of my energy is being dedicated to my craft. And also, one of the habits that I've developed in that is some days you just have bad writing days and your brain's just not braining and there's nothing you can do about it. And even if you've done the checklist, you've gone to the place, you ordered the thing, you sat in the right place, and you're doing all the things right, if your brain doesn't want to brain, don't beat yourself up over it. Just tell yourself, today's not a writing day, and go home and do something different. And don't try to force yourself to write. It is, it's kind of like having a cat, right? The way you get a cat to like you is by not smothering it with love. If your writing wants to come out that day, that's great. And if not, make it a nice space for it to be where it'll come back to you.
Right. Okay. Do you use, this isn't one of the questions.
Extra question.
Do you make, before you write a book, do you make an outline?
Yes. So my story in particular is actually based off of a role-playing game that my friends and I have participated in. So I have the entire tetralogy's worth of information already lined up. I turn them into shot lists specifically. So the outline system that most writers use does not work well in my brain. So I actually turn it into scenes, like lines, line by line, a shot list, like you would make a film. And say, okay, this is the scene where this happens. And then as I'm writing, I can actually move them around if it looks like it needs to be, maneuvered around. But yeah, definitely have an outline. Do not just wing it. Don't wing it.
Don't just wing it, because that's not going to help. Yeah, it's like me. I have to have an absolute solid outline, but I'm writing nonfiction. So I have to have an outline, and it has to be a solid researched outline. And chapter by chapter, subheading by subheading, or I'll get lost.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's so easy to get lost.
I'll get way off point, and then you don't know where you are anymore. Anyway, okay. Could you share with our listeners an internet resource that you use when you're writing?
Oh, I would love to. So one of the internet resources that I love is this Facebook group called Women Writers, Editors, Publishers, and Agents. I think it's those words in some order. But it's a Facebook group full of people from around the world. And in there, they have Success Saturday, where everybody posts about their success, and they get, some social be like, hey, good job. We post our first lines on Fridays and things like that. And people can be like, oh, well, if you change the tense of this, I think it would come out really a lot better. And so it's really more of a community thing. I actually posted on there looking for my first copy editor. And I got so many fantastic applications from that group. It was just absolutely mind-boggling and humbling. But yeah, find groups online. I don't know if this is really a service or anything, but just having a community online makes a world of difference. Just to let you know that you're not alone in the world, and the struggles you're going through, everybody else is going through too.
Hey, that's an internet resource. So, okay, Mikaela, we are going to enter now into the grand finale. And what I want you to do in this grand finale is take your time and tell our listeners about your book.
Thank you so much. So my book is The Mistport Guardians, The Stolen Child, and it is a multi-point of view epic fantasy, and it is the first installation in a tetralogy. So if you're a fan of Will White's like Cradle series or Lord of the Rings or any kind of real epic fantasy, or if you're into Critical Role's Vox Machina series that's just come out recently, this is the book for you. This is the adventure that you want to go on. So when Mikaela Emberblade, a fiery swordswoman, escapes her home island in search of a way to eradicate the slave industry in the bustling city of Mistport, she falls into fate with a diverse company of characters. Kaz Darcy, the Lord of the People, Pepe, a wily rogue, Lafayette Faygrass, a scrappy artificer, and eventually Trisna, a naive apostate. And together, they rescue a trafficked girl as a trading port and get involved with an underground rebellion that rages against a tyrannical, racist, classist, and anti-magic empire that holds the city hostage. And it is a journey of epic proportions. It is this group of, strangers that become a found family throughout all of their adventures. They go through what it's like to be a child of two worlds. It goes through what it's like to be of privilege and know that you want to fix things in the world. It talks about how class affects our outlook on life, all told through the story of this fantastical world. And when you are going through, you're reading it from the perspective of 5 different people. And so you're not just getting one person's view throughout the world, you're getting 5 completely separate individuals going through this world, and you just feel for them. There is a person in this book for every person who reads it. Like there's someone that every person is going to be able to read through and be like, wow, someone else feels the same way I do. I'm not alone in this. Someone else has gone through this experience. And wow, they made it through, so I guess I can make it through too. And it opens up into this massive magical world where the Sylvandine, which is where like the Fae are currently at war with the empirical plane, which is where the normal people live, the non-magical world-esque people are interacting. So you have culture clashes, you have the strife of war, you have fascist overtones of control against the people, and what happens when normal people get involved with raging against that machine. And it's been such a joy to write, and it's been such a joy to reread again, and it's been such a joy to have other people read it and tell me how they feel. So if you are interested in following that journey, because we are currently on our publishing adventure, I would love for you to reach out to me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm both at Mikaela Duffy Writes, so at MikaelaDuffyWrites, Mikaela Duffy Writes, on all the social media platforms. My website is www.mikaeladuffy.com. And if you're into fantasy, if you're into adventure, and if you're into like fighting for justice, and you want to see the justice in the world in some kind of palpable reality in this book, this is for you. If you want to see the change that could be in the world if we tried.
Well, that sounds fantastic, Mikaela. I think is this going to be book 1? Are you going to continue this as a series?
Yes. So this is the first book. I'm already halfway through writing the second book, and the third and the fourth book are already outlined.
Well, fantastic, because this sounds like it would be a good series to follow.
Thank you. I'm so excited for it.
Already sounds like it would be a good series to have. So, Mikaela, we thank you so much for being here with us today, opening up to us, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate this too. Again, this is Michael T. To all our listeners, I would invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, scroll down to the icon of your choice where you can find us on one of your favorite platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. You can download and follow us there, and please leave a review. Don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter to get the latest information on our upcoming shows. Book Party Podcast is owned and powered by MTM Legacy Publishing, LLC. This is Michael T., and we're signing off.
You must not miss our next episode as we delve into a world of inspiration, entertainment, and thought-provoking insights. Join Michael T. on the next Book Party Podcast and experience a new adventure, a new story, and a complete immersion into the world of Pages Unveiled, Chronicles of the Writing Journey.